When I was young, I saved Hector from a fire and left an indelible scar on my back. For this, I gave up my beloved classical dance. He once kissed the hideous wound and said I was the most beautiful one in his heart and that his love for me is unforgettable. 10 years later, I overheard a conversation between him and his. Zoe may be capable and beautiful, but the scar on her body is disgusting. Touching her triggers a stress response in me. How can she compare to the tender and lovely girls with smooth skin? Hector, belittling me wouldn't elevate you. Now, I was beyond your reach. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, thirsty. By chance, I overheard Hector complaining on the phone in his study with his friend. I dare not enter the bedroom now, for fear that she will make me have sex with her. What's the point of Zoe's pretty face? Do you want the ugly scar on her back? Delicate and tender young girls are much better. Just thinking about them turns me on. I couldn't believe that such malicious words were spoken by Hector, who has always been close to me. We had been staying in separate rooms for 3 months. I often stayed up late, working for a promotion. He was worried about affecting me, so he voluntarily moved to the study. I foolishly thought he was being considerate. I didn't expect that he was just disgusted with me and didn't love me anymore. 10 minutes later, Hector hurriedly left home. He was probably too eager to see someone that he didn't even turn off the computer. I sat in front of his computer, quietly watching the real-time updates of his chat. A pink avatar named Monica popped up. It's late at night. Won't your wife suspect you? She's asleep. I sneaked out. Hurry up, I miss you so much. Hector immediately replied, baby, clean yourself up and wait for me. I'll be there soon. 20 minutes later, Hector sent another message. Baby, open the door. The chat stopped. We were both adults. It was obvious what they were doing at the moment. I held the mouse and scrolled up to look at their chat records. My hand couldn't stop trembling. The girl named Monica was a famous internet celebrity. Hector had given her a lot of gifts. 3 months ago, they made an appointment to meet offline. That day happened to be the release of a new movie, and I planned to invite Hector to go to the cinema together and enjoy a good time with him. But Hector declined, using working overtime as an excuse. Now I knew that on that night they went to see that movie together. Monica often took the initiative to send Hector her sexy and charming photos. Her skin was indeed fair and tender. Even through the screen, I could feel the youthful atmosphere. Hector would transfer money to her every now and then. Sometimes it was 1,000 or 2,000, and sometimes it was tens of thousands. Their conversations were so obscene that it shocked me. I had known Hector for so many years, but I never knew his taste was so awful. I suppressed the urge to vomit and calmly saved screenshots of their conversations and transfer records. Then, I restored the computer interface to its original state. I went back to my bedroom and went to sleep. The next morning, Hector quietly returned. He pulled me up from the bed and handed me a tube of ointment as if presenting a treasure. Darling, this scar removal ointment is recommended by a famous internet celebrity. It is said to be very effective. Saying that, he pleasingly winked at me. Don't be too touched, I still have something to do at the company. I have to go. His voice was as gentle as always. After Hector left, I looked at the ointment he left behind, and my thoughts drifted back to 10 years ago. Hector and I grew up together since we were young, and we could be considered childhood sweethearts. That summer vacation, his home suddenly caught fire. At that time, there was only him in the house, but he had just broken his leg playing basketball not long ago and couldn't escape from the fire on his own. Ignoring the dissuasion of others, I rushed into the fire without hesitation and carried the almost suffocated Hector out. Although I successfully rescued Hector, I got a palm-sized burn on my back. For this, I gave up my beloved classical dance. Hector held me and cried for a long time after knowing it. He said he owed me a life, and he didn't want anyone else in this lifetime except me. I didn't take his words seriously. The second year, he applied to the university where I was studying. Hector was handsome and many girls liked him, but he only treated me well. 1849. My roommates envied me, saying that I had a devoted little fanboy. I didn't want him to choose me out of guilt. After several rejections, he said with red eyes, Zoe, I have liked you since I was young. You are the only one in my heart. Please don't drive me away. I finally succumbed. Hector once kissed the scar on my back affectionately, saying it was the mark of our love. But now, he pretended to love me while despising my ugly and disgusting scar. If I hadn't seen his flirtatious messages with someone else and the large sum of money he transferred, I would even suspect that last night was just a nightmare. Tonight, Hector came home early and looked disappointed at the empty dining table. Honey, haven't you cooked dinner yet? No matter how busy I was, I always prepared meals for him when he came home from work. But at this moment, I was working in front of the computer and not looking at him. I said in a flat voice, "I've already eaten dinner, you can order takeout for yourself." Hector's expression became gloomy, but he tried to endure it. He forced a smile and changed the subject. "How is the scar removal ointment I gave you this morning?" "It's useless. I've thrown it away." Hector couldn't hold it anymore, his face turned extremely gloomy. "Zoe, how could you disappoint my sincere feelings?" I looked up and asked, "What? Are you disgusted with the scar on my back now?" A trace of guilt flashed in his eyes and he stammered, "How is that possible? Don't think too much." The atmosphere in the room became a bit oppressive, and after a while, Hector couldn't sit still. He pretended to answer a phone call. Then, he picked up his coat on the sofa and said, "My superior arranged a business trip for me. I won't be back tonight." After I took a shower at night and just lay on the bed, Hector called. I answered the call, but there was silence on the other end. I thought it was a mistake and was about to hang up when I heard Hector's voice. "Baby, your skin is tender and smooth. You're so fragrant." The girl coquettishly said, "Hector, compared to that old woman, who do you like more?" What followed was the sound of panting during a kiss. Hector's voice was hoarse. "Darling, don't mention her at a time like this. Hector, tonight, you are mine. Everything is for you. They are all yours." The following conversation between them left me dumbfounded. Fortunately, I pressed the recording button when I heard Hector's voice. It seemed that he wanted to show off to me. I found the ID of that internet celebrity named Monica on a social platform. She updated frequently and had many fans. Her latest update was a slightly sexy short video. In the video, she held up her phone and took a selfie in front of the mirror with a satisfied expression. Behind her, a man embraced her slender waist and passionately kissed her neck. The man's head was lowered, so his face couldn't be seen, but I recognized his clothing and hairstyle at a glance. It was Hector. I didn't feel too sad and even followed her account. The next day at work, I received a large bouquet of flowers ordered by Hector. Shortly after, he called me. "Zoe, I met some difficulties on this business trip. I probably won't be able to come back for a few days. Remember to miss me." I didn't respond and hung up the phone. I casually looked at Monica's homepage and sure enough, she updated her status early in the morning. It was a picture of a bunch of fresh flowers. And the caption said, "I hope that every morning when I open my eyes, I can see him and my favorite flowers." Which woman didn't love flowers? When Hector was pursuing me, he would send me a bouquet every day. Later, when we got together, I asked him to save some money, so he restrained himself a bit and only sent me flowers on special days or when he made me angry. A colleague couldn't have enough of this bouquet and said, "Zoe, I envy you so much for having such a romantic husband." I smiled and said, "Do you like it? I'll give it to you." I didn't care about such a hypocritical love. From the frequent updates on Monica's account, I learned about their recent situation. Hector took her to shop like crazy, bought her new luxury bags, and accompanied her to travel to the mountains. They wore couple shirts, watched the sunrise together, and Hector carried her on his back to climb the mountain. When bathing in the hot springs, Hector gave her an oil massage, treating her like a princess. I had no anger or sadness. Instead, I saved all the evidence of Hector's affair. Hector contacted me again on the 5th afternoon. "Honey, I'm back. Do you miss me? I've booked a candlelight dinner. I'll pick you up after work." I calmly replied, "I'm on a business trip." Hector was disappointed. "Why didn't you tell me in advance that you were on a business trip?" If I had told him in advance, he could have spent a few more days with Monica. "I didn't know you were coming back today." He was a little disappointed and asked, "Can you come back tomorrow?" "Why? It'll be Bob's birthday. He invited us to get together." I said flatly, "Tell him I can't make it." There was no joy or anger in Hector's voice. "When you come back, let me know and I'll pick you up." Okay. In fact, the business trip was fake. During the time Hector was fooling around, I had moved out of that so-called home. I had a small apartment in the city, which my parents gave me before I got married. That night, Monica updated her status. It was a romantic candlelight dinner. There was also a photo of cross-armed toasts. And Hector was wearing the wedding ring that I put on. I liked this post. That night, the profile picture of Monica's social media account was changed. It was a couple doll. When Hector pursued me back then, he designed these ceramic dolls. These years, they had been placed on my bedside table. I endured the nausea and took out the divorce agreement that had been prepared long ago and made some modifications. The next night, Monica sent me a photo through private chat. The photo showed Bob and a group of people. It seemed that Hector took her to attend the party. Then, she sent another provocative message. "You've been following me for so long, why don't you chat with me?" I sneered. "Don't hurry." I turned my back to the mirror and looked at myself wearing a backless dress. I had a graceful figure. I used to feel inferior because of my scar. I was repeatedly satirized by Hector. "Zoe, it's not good for women to wear backless clothes. You should dress more layers and they can cover up your scar." At this moment, the scar on my back was already covered by a large number of gorgeous rose tattoos. I used to restrain myself for him, but now, I was being myself again. I put on my coat, picked up my bag, and went out. "Hector, I wonder what expression you will have when you see me later," I thought. When I arrived at the club, I went to the restroom to touch up my makeup. I had been a little haggard recently, but I still needed to pay attention to my appearance. I just applied lipstick when a girl rushed into the bathroom and made a hushing gesture toward me, then, she hid behind me. "Young lady, please help me. I have a fan chasing after me." This voice sounded familiar. I took a few more glances at her and realized it was her. She was Hector's sweetheart. She was wearing a spaghetti strap dress, revealing her smooth back and chest. Her figure was indeed good. It was just that she usually used too many filters that I almost didn't recognize her. She was also looking at me. "You are so beautiful, are you also a famous live streamer?" She didn't know me. It was understandable. Hector never posted our photos on his Twitter, and I didn't have any pictures of myself on my social media, either. I shook my head. She looked disappointed but quickly put on a smile and looked me up and down. Suddenly, her gaze fell on the diamond necklace around my neck. "Wow, your necklace is so pretty. Do you have a link to the online store selling it? I'll ask my boyfriend to buy me one." She was a talkative girl, no wonder Hector doted on her so much. I took off the necklace. "Here, it's yours." She looked surprised. "Really? You're so kind. I'm tired of wearing it." She didn't doubt me, put the necklace around her neck, and looked at herself in the mirror. "Oh my god, it suits me so well." I smiled. This necklace was bought for me by Hector with his first salary. I had always been wearing it. It was something that was once treasured, but when lost, I found it not difficult to let go. Monica seemed happy and kept taking selfies with the necklace. I quietly left the restroom. At the entrance of the private room where Hector and his friends often gathered, I heard a conversation. "Hector, it's fine if you just play with your lover, but why did you bring her here?" Hector laughed and said, "Anyway, Zoe is on a business trip and won't come. I am so bored if I come myself. Forgive me for being nosy. Zoe is a good girl. If she finds out about this, she will be sad." After a moment of silence, Hector sighed and said, "I have been with Zoe for so many years, and I am tired of her. It's like touching my right hand with my left hand, so there is no freshness at all." My fingers trembled. Once upon a time, Hector held me carefully in his arms and sincerely said to me, "Zoe, my biggest wish is to be with you for a lifetime. The happiest thing is to see you every day." But now, he said he was tired. At this time, Monica came back from the bathroom and was a little surprised to see me. "Young lady, it's fate that we meet again." As she spoke, she pushed open the door of the private room, rushed in, and hugged Hector's neck and coquettishly said, "Hector, look at this necklace. It matches the dress you gave me, right? It was given to me by the beautiful girl at the door." Hector's doting smile froze when he saw the necklace Monica was showing off. He panicked, looked up and saw me, who was leaning against the door. Almost at the same time, he pushed away the girl on him. "Monica, go back." The atmosphere in the private room became extremely oppressive. Bob and his group looked at each other, and then, Bob spoke up to smooth things over. "Zoe, this is a misunderstanding. You should listen to Hector's explanation." I smiled and looked at Hector. He scolded to the girl next to him, "Why haven't you left yet?" The girl was quite interesting. Instead of running away when she found out my identity, she hid behind Hector. She looked at me, appearing flustered and at a loss, but her eyes revealed a hint of pride and cunning. It seems that I underestimated her. Maybe she deliberately came to the restroom to have a chance encounter with me. There's no need to avoid her. Monica and I have known each other for a long time, haven't we? I raised my eyebrows and looked at Monica. Monica immediately looked at Hector in panic, with an innocent and aggrieved expression. Hector quickly calmed down. "Zoe, come to me if you wanna do anything. Don't scare Monica. She's just a little girl." I didn't expect him to have some sense of responsibility. I didn't bother to talk to him and took out the divorce agreement that I had prepared long ago from my bag. "I just need you to sign on this." Hector's face turned pale in an instant, and his hand that took the document was trembling. However, he tried his best to look calm. Bob panicked and advised, "Zoe, don't be impulsive, Hector is just drunk." I shook my head. They have been together for 3 months. Bob couldn't help Hector anymore. Hector looked at me, his voice hoarse. Zoe, you knew all along. But you acted like nothing happened. Did he want me to question him why he changed his mind and why he didn't love me anymore like a shrew? I curled the corners of my mouth. His face turned dark. So your business trip is just a bait. Bob held on to Hector, signaling him to stop. But I didn't stay silent. Hector, you are the one at fault in our marriage, there's no need to feel wronged. Hector gritted his teeth, and without even reading the contents of the agreement, he flipped to the last page and signed his name. Then, he took Monica's hand. Let's go. Bob wanted to drag him back, but I stopped him. I knew Hector. He was proud and never easily admitted defeat, especially in front of his friends. That was why I chose to expose him today. In this way, even if he didn't want to, he had to agree to divorce because of dignity. Actually, tonight went more smoothly than I expected. At least, there was no arguing or entanglement, and he signed the divorce agreement. Now that Monica didn't need to hide anymore, she became even more arrogant and provoked me. She friended me on Twitter and sent me photos of her and Hector's loving life. I ignored her, but I didn't delete her. Although Hector signed the papers, we hadn't been to City Hall yet, so we were not officially divorced. So, it was better to have more evidence about his affair with Monica. That night, Monica admitted generously in the live broadcast that she had a boyfriend. She even deliberately filmed the bathroom door to tell everyone that her boyfriend was taking a shower at the moment. I thought since Hector wasn't home, I could go back and get some things. When I opened the door, I saw Hector sitting in the dim room with several empty bottles in front of him. Shouldn't he be with Monica? But since we met, there was no need to hide. I said, I came back to get some things. He glanced at me and his voice was hoarse. Do you really want a divorce? I looked at him curiously. You already signed the papers. I came out of the room after packing up and getting ready to leave. Hector stopped me. Monica and I have broken up. And then, he struggled to speak. Can we not get divorced? Saying that, Hector handed me a cold object. I opened my palm and saw that it was the necklace. He got it back from Monica. Hector's voice was a little urgent. Zoe, forgive me this time. His expression was serious and anxious. Maybe he really regretted it. But what did this have to do with me? I said in a low voice, Hector, before we got married, I said that if you were unfaithful once, I'd never be with you. So, let's make an appointment as soon as possible and go to City Hall. I said, and without any nostalgia, I threw the necklace in my hand into the trash can next to the door. I didn't look back at him until I left. What surprised me was that Monica publicly slandered me online. She started a live broadcast. Although she didn't mention any names, she posted my photos. She cried in the live broadcast room. She said that I used power and unscrupulous means to snatch her boyfriend. The live broadcast room was filled with netizens comforting her. Someone took a screenshot of my photo, quickly exposed my information, and spread all kinds of malicious rumors. There were even people pretending to be insiders. They said that I was using the scar on my back to coerce her boyfriend and force him to take responsibility for me. For a while, I was pushed to the forefront of public opinion, but she underestimated my ability to fight back. I was not a pushover. How could I let her be the first to complain? I immediately claimed my identity in her live broadcast. Although I was insulted by a large group of people, I calmly released my marriage certificate with Hector, as well as their chat records and photos of their affair. In just 2 days, the public opinion completely reversed. You know you're a mistress, yet you never stopped but bit back instead. Do you think we're fools? Once it became a trending topic, the truth was revealed. After the netizens who have her gifts and had relationships with her found out, they all complained and criticized her. In just a few days, Monica went from being a highly anticipated and loved internet celebrity to someone everyone blamed. Not long after, Hector called me. I admit that I made a mistake, but I have cut ties with Monica. Why are you still targeting her? I asked with interest. How am I targeting her? Hector was furious. Are you still pretending? You posted our affair online and ruined her future. She is still young. Why do you have to be so ruthless? I have already apologized to you. This matter has nothing to do with her. Can you let her go? I laughed. No. The next day, I sued Monica. The transfer and chat records were evidence. Every penny that Hector spent on her was our community property. I must get back what belonged to me. On the 3rd day, Hector found me again. He was both angry and frustrated. I agree to go to City Hall with you. Are you satisfied now? I raised an eyebrow and said, okay, let's go now. The procedure went smoothly, and Hector did not object to the property division I proposed. Coming out of City Hall, Hector looked gloomy. You really stop at nothing to force me to divorce. I turned around and looked at him and suddenly realized that he wasn't as smart as I thought. Did Monica tell you I sue her because you refused to divorce? Isn't that the truth? I sighed. It seems like you haven't been online much lately. Hector's expression changed slightly. What do you mean? At this point, I felt that there was no need to hide it from Hector. I asked him to go online and check what Monica had done to me recently. I also forwarded the private chat where Monica provoked me, as well as the earliest phone recording, to him. I said to Hector, you keep saying you love me and that you don't want to separate from me, but you would rather believe her and come to question me for her sake. Your love is too cheap. I don't want it. Remember to get the divorce certificate on time next month. I got on the car with a smile and left in a cloud of dust. I did not withdraw the lawsuit against Monica. This was the retribution she deserved. I gave her a chance and didn't want to pursue it further, but she didn't restrain herself and pushed her luck. I was not a magnanimous person. It didn't take long for Monica to pay back the money she owed me. As for whether she raised the money herself or someone else gave it to her, it had nothing to do with me. Hector contacted me many times. It was all about repentance. He said he was enchanted. He just wanted some excitement. He only had me in his heart. He didn't know that Monica provoked me first. He said he was deceived by her innocent appearance. I said coldly, but the fact is that you cheated on me. Now you're trying to shift the blame. I looked down on you. A week later, the company held a celebration dinner, and I was in a good mood and had some drinks. It was my colleague Cedric, who had just started interning at the company, who drove me home. After getting off the car, I thanked Cedric, but it was seen by Hector, who was waiting downstairs at my home. He didn't ask for the reason and came up to question me. Is this the reason why you insisted on leaving me? Cedric had just joined the company and didn't know that I was already married, let alone that I was getting divorced. He thought Hector was harassing me, so he protected me. Zoe, don't be afraid, I'm here. I couldn't help but chuckle. The way he protected me did resemble that of the previous Hector. It was at a university party. I showcased my talent and performed a classical dance. After the performance, there was applause from the audience and my show won first place. But someone noticed the scar on my back. A guy who I had rejected publicly mocked me. Although your face is good, no one would want you once you take off your clothes. This matter quickly reached Hector's ears. He rushed into the boys' class and beat the boy who was studying to the ground. He made him unable to get up. At that time, he had one foot on the boy's face. Fiercely, he said, "Who said that Zoe is unwanted? I only want her." Later, he hugged me and said, "If anyone dares to speak ill of you, tell me and I will stand up for you." At that moment, I felt warm and touched. "Who do you think you are?" Hector looked at Cedric disdainfully. "Do you know who I am to Zoe?" Hector's voice brought me back to reality. I sighed. In a gentle voice, I said to the tense Cedric, "Cedric, he is my friend. We had a misunderstanding, you can go back without me." Cedric still looked worried. "Are you really okay?" I smiled. "I'm fine, thank you." "Then, send me a message later to let me know you're safe." I nodded. Cedric then drove away. Hector's voice was low. "Who is he?" I looked at him and smiled faintly. "He's the new intern at the company, handsome, right?" Hector thought I had admitted my relationship with Cedric and his face turned gloomy. He looked me up and down, furrowing his brows slightly. He seemed to be unable to accept me wearing such a sexy dress. "What did you do? Why are you dressed like this?" He thought my dress was too sexy and tight. I straightened my back, smiled confidently, and said, "I like the way I dress. Besides, last time, you bought a shorter and more revealing dress for your mistress, didn't you?" When I mentioned Monica, Hector looked uncomfortable. "Zoe, those men are only attracted to your appearance, they don't genuinely like you. Aren't you afraid of being deceived?" I laughed even more with a hint of teasing in my tone. "Just like you." Hector was momentarily speechless and his expression slightly changed. I imitated his tone in the private room and sneered, "Hector, we've been together for so many years and I've long been tired of you. Being with you is like touching my right hand with my left hand, there's no freshness at all." Hector clenched his fist. He was obviously suppressing his emotions. "So you did it on purpose to retaliate against me?" I shook my head. "Hector, you are too arrogant. You betrayed our relationship by cheating on me, so you are eager to accuse me of the same wrongdoing to alleviate your guilt, right? If thinking like this can make you let go earlier, then let it be." I turned around to leave, but Hector panicked. "Zoe, I believe in you. I have always believed in you." I said coldly, "Once, I believed in you too." After a while, Hector said hoarsely, "I'm sorry, I let you down. But can you give me another chance for the sake of us growing up together since childhood?" I have broken up with Monica, I promise. I won't have any contact with her again. She also promised me that she will never bother you again. Can we pretend that it never happened? We were once deep in love." As he said this, his eyes turned red and tears welled up in them. I remembered the day he proposed to me. He shed tears of happiness. He said he had liked only me since he was a child. I was the only one in his heart. He had been following me and doing everything to make me happy. Marrying me was his dream. So, he cried happily. I thought that at this moment, he truly regretted it. But he didn't know that it was not just because of Monica that I was disappointed in him. I took a deep breath. "Hector, I have a scar on my back." He nervously looked at me, as if waiting for the final judgment. "The scar on my back cannot be removed, no matter how good the scar removal ointment is. No matter how beautiful my face is, it's useless. When I take off my clothes, it still makes people sick. You don't even want to touch me, you think I'm dirty. How can I feel better than a delicate and smooth-skinned girl?" The anticipation in Hector's eyes gradually dissipated. It was replaced by a sense of defeat. My voice remained cold. "Hector, do you know how disgusting you are in my heart when you describe me with such harsh words? In the beginning, I was burned and scarred in order to save you. You said you would take responsibility for me, and you would never betray me for a lifetime. I didn't use this scar to threaten you, force you, or ask you to do anything for me. Everything was voluntary on your part. But later, you betrayed me and made me look so pathetic. Hector, you make me sick." This time, when I left, Hector didn't chase after me anymore. A month had passed. On the day we agreed to get the divorce certificate, Hector couldn't be reached. Bob called me and said that Hector was severely burned in a fire and asked me to go to the hospital quickly. I arrived at the ward and saw Hector lying weakly on the sick bed. He called my name in a daze. His left arm was wrapped in thick bandages, which was shocking to see. Bob said that Hector had just finished the surgery to treat the burned skin, but because the burned area was too large, he might not be fully cured. According to Bob, he found Hector in the morning and discovered that he had drunk a lot of alcohol and set fire to a sofa in the apartment. Hector also said that he couldn't bear to leave me and wanted to make up for his mistakes and experience the pain I had suffered, so he chose self-harm. Fortunately, I discovered it in time, otherwise, the fire would have spread and the consequences would have been unimaginable. Bob looked at me and advised. Hector realized his mistake. He loves you very much and is willing to give up his life for you. I thanked Bob and asked him to leave. I stayed to take care of Hector. I sat at the bedside, looking at Hector's pale face. It seemed that he had suffered a lot. After a while, Hector opened his eyes. He pursed his pale lips and spoke in a weak voice. "Honey, am I dreaming? You came to see me. I thought I would never see you again in this lifetime. I didn't expect to see you again before I die. I can't live without you. Please forgive me. I am willing to do anything you ask," he said sincerely with tears in his eyes. I poured a glass of warm water for him. He took a sip and looked delighted. "You're the best to me." I spoke slowly. "I asked a friend before I came, and there were no severely burned patients admitted to the hospital this morning. One of my best friends worked at this hospital." Hector froze, his right hand holding the glass trembling. "Besides, our home is equipped with an automatic fire extinguishing sprinkler system. Bob said that you were burned like this in the living room. Did the system break down? Because of the fire that year, we both had lingering fears, so the new apartment was equipped with a device that could automatically detect smoke and fire and spray water." Hector's face turned pale, and when he saw me standing up, he hurriedly grabbed my hand. He used his left hand, which was wrapped up. "Zoe, I was wrong. I lied to you. I just don't want to be separated from you." As he spoke, he took off the bandage on his arm. The bandage slowly fell to the ground, and his arm had no burns. But when all the bandages were removed, I saw a burn on the back of his left hand. The skin was broken and there were signs of pus. He said, "I used a lighter, but Bob came and stopped me." He pleaded earnestly, "I know I was wrong. You know me. I have a big ego, so at that time, I spoke without thinking. I was just tempted. At that time, you were busy with work every day and didn't have time for me. That was why I started watching short videos and got to know Monica. During that time, I was very lonely and a little angry with you. I feel like Monica is somewhat similar to the old you. She kept pestering me and I couldn't control myself. Once, when I was with Monica, Bob found out. He called me and advised me, but I said those things about you on the phone just to save face. I never thought that way in my heart. I listened quietly and finally understood the cause and effect. Actually, late at night, I thought about it too. Did I ignore Hector, causing him to change his mind? But these were not legitimate reasons for a man to cheat. I sighed. Hector, everyone should be responsible for the words they have said, and the things they have done. My voice was calm. Hector, I don't regret rescuing you from the fire, even if it left ugly scar on my body. After all, it was my choice and no one forced me. I used to love you and wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. But, I gently pulled my hand away from his tight grip. But now, I don't love you anymore. Even if you refuse to divorce, whenever I see you, I will feel that you are dirty and disgusting. The things you have done and the words you have said replay in my mind every day. It made me feel disgusted over and over again. Hector, do you want me hate you more and more? Hector fell silent. I looked at him, and there was no longer the love in my eyes. If there's nothing wrong with your body, then come with me to get the divorce certificate. This time, Hector didn't make any excuses. From the hospital to City Hall, he followed closely behind me. Just like when we were children. We smoothly obtained the divorce certificate. After coming out of City Hall, Hector finally spoke. Zoe, can we still be friends in the future? I didn't hesitate. No, after we break up, it's impossible to be friends. Besides, Hector straightened his back and listened to me seriously. I don't want to see you again in my whole life. Goodbye, Hector. I walked far away before I heard Hector's trembling roar behind me. Zoe, I was wrong. He seemed to have exhausted all his strength. I will wait for you and love you forever. I didn't look back but walked forward firmly. In fact, the hard work during that period was not in vain. I got the opportunity for promotion and was transferred to the headquarters abroad. I'd be more determined and confident with every step I took. I had no regrets and pain. I only had hope and dreams. Hector's point of view. In the 3rd year after marrying Zoe, our life encountered some small problems. She was under a lot of pressure and very busy with work to get promoted. She was a bit perfunctory toward me. I tried very hard to understand and empathize with her, but the restless feeling inside me only grew stronger. To shift my attention, I started watching videos and live streams. I discovered a female streamer. She bore some resemblance to the young Zoe. I couldn't help but pay attention to her. When I listened to her sweet voice, I felt that my boring life had become more interesting. I often gave her gifts. One day, she privately messaged me and asked for my phone number. I knew I shouldn't meet with Monica privately, but I couldn't control my curiosity. That day, Monica and I agreed to watch a movie. But I didn't expect Zoe to ask me out at the same time. I was torn. On one hand, I was looking forward to meeting Monica for the first time. On the other hand, it had been a long time since I had spent time alone with Zoe. In the end, the excitement of something new prevailed, and I deceived Zoe for the first time. I said I had to work overtime and couldn't go with her. But actually, I was with Monica. Not only did we watch a movie, we also booked a hotel room. Monica was proactive and open in bed, which made me very happy. This was an experience I had never had with Zoe. I became addicted and couldn't control my greed. Once I had the first time, there was a second time, a third time. I knew it was wrong, but I still betrayed Zoe over and over again. Every day when I came home and looked at Zoe, I felt like a jerk. I wanted to cut off contact with Monica more than once, but she always found ways to make me compromise. I was deeply trapped and unable to extricate myself. While feeling guilty toward Zoe, I was also enjoying the excitement that Monica brought me. Until one night, when I was with Monica, Bob saw us. I felt extremely guilty, but because of my pride, I was unwilling to admit my mistakes to Bob. So when Bob called to persuade me, I spoke without thinking. I shifted all the blame onto Zoe. I said she was boring and didn't know how to please me. I said I was tired of being with her and there was no freshness anymore. I even said the scar on her back was too ugly, making it hard for me to have physical contact with her. After saying these words, I regretted it. Zoe had an indelible scar on her flawless skin to save me. She saved my life. She was the one I had been longing for and the love of my life. How could I criticize her with such harsh and offensive words? I immediately decided to explain it to Monica. Monica asked me to stay with her for the last night and I agreed. When I thought back, it was just that I couldn't control my desires. After having sex with Monica, I confronted her and told her not to see each other again in the future. Instead of getting angry, she even took the initiative to give me a scar removal ointment when she heard that Zoe had a scar on her back. She said this ointment was particularly effective. At that time, I felt guilty. I thought Monica was a kind and sensible girl, but I let her down. The next day when I returned home, I gave Zoe the ointment that Monica gave me as a treasure. I wanted to return to my family. I even deleted Monica's contact information. But when I came home at night, there was no hot meal. Zoe used to prepare hot meals for me no matter how busy she was. I was disappointed. Later, she said she threw the ointment I gave her away, which made me even angrier. Why didn't she understand my good intentions? At this time, Monica came to me again. She said she couldn't bear to live without me. I left home and immersed myself in the pleasure of sex again out of spite. After indulging myself for a few days, I actually missed Zoe. I returned home with great enthusiasm, but Zoe was not there. She said she was on a business trip. In the past, she would always tell me her itinerary in advance. I felt frustrated again. In anger, I brought Monica back home. We passionately entangled on the bed and I fantasized that she was Zoe. I repeatedly told myself that I must end this absurd relationship before Zoe found out. But the truth would out. When Zoe appeared in the private room, I knew that I had been sentenced to death. Zoe sued Monica. I knew she had never been a timid person. Monica came to me, crying, and said that Zoe had ruined her reputation. But I thought she deserved it. Just like me, I deserved to be punished. In the end, I paid back the money for Monica, and the condition was to cut off all ties with her and never have any contact again. Before leaving, Monica gave me a hard slap. She said I was extremely hypocritical. I accepted it. After 3 years of divorce with Zoe, I was still alone. Bob's friends introduced me to many girls, but I politely declined all of them. No one was better than Zoe. I lost her. I deserved to be lonely for life. I heard that Zoe had been studying abroad for 2 years and had been promoted to director in the company. And I, who didn't make any progress, could no longer compare with her. Later, I met Zoe by chance at a charity. She performed a classical dance on stage for the children in need of assistance. Her dance moves were elegant and touching, and every turn and leap was filled with strength and tenderness. She stood there confidently with radiating brilliance. In this moment, I hid among the crowd below the stage. I felt ashamed and inferior. The end.